Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Andrea Kita and I'm a folklorist, and today I'm going to talk about methodological populism and methodological symmetry. I think a lot of people get intimidated by these terms because they sound very complicated. They actually aren't. They both come from David Hufford's work, and let's start with methodological populism. So methodological populism just basically means that we treat the people we talk to with dignity and respect, and we believe what they have to say. It's pretty simple. So we're not there to prove or disprove the person we're talking to. We're not there to judge them. We're not there to, do anything other than listen. And that's all methodological populism is. It's sitting down with a person and assume what they're saying is true. We just listen to them. That's it. That's all methodological populism is. It's really not that much more complicated than that. We're not there to prove or disprove that anything they're saying. We're just there to listen. The other methodological symmetry, it's a little slightly more complicated, but it's really not that complicated either. So methodological symmetry basically means that we're trying to look at both questions of belief and questions of disbelief, and try to ask questions that make those easy, or to make those a little bit more balanced, right? So what we're trying to do is take out inherent bias when we ask these questions. So we don't want to go in assuming anything, and that's all we're really doing with methodological symmetry, is trying to go in with and remove those inherent biases as much as we can. Now, we can never totally remove an inherent bias. We can just do our best not to let it intrude in on those. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an example of that. So there are certain things that I think we all believe or disbelieve in. And I think as like an individual, for me, I can go in and I can listen to any ghost story. And I'm very good at listening to ghost stories. I'm like, okay, cool, you had an experience, and I will listen to it. But my inherent bias, for some reason, and I don't know why this is towards aliens. And I know that's kind of silly. And if you sat down and asked me if I believe there's life on other planets, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that there's like, I don't know, a pond of water somewhere that has like some amoebas in it or something. Like, I'm pretty sure there probably is life on other planets, or, something like life. However, this is my inherent bias again, do I believe that people are coming, or beings are coming to visit us and taking us up into spaceships and probing us? Probably not. But that's my inherent bias, right? This is where I am as an individual. So if I go into an interview and I'm talking to someone and they start talking about aliens, that's not for me to judge, right? And that's hard to do. As individuals, that's hard for all of us to do because we all have inherent bias. But that's not my place to judge as a folklorist. My place is to listen and to figure out what's going on and to talk to them about it. So I don't judge people when they tell me these stories, because that's exactly what I'm trying not to do. So I also have to be very, very careful, because I know that inherent bias about myself, not to ask a leading question or to ask a question that will dismiss part of the story. So this is what we're trying to do. I would never say to someone, if I was interviewing them, oh, so you think that's aliens? I would never say that, because that's wrong. That's unethical from a folklorist standpoint. I might say something like, what do you think it is? That is a less leading question. Or do you have any ideas of what it could be? That's a less leading question than saying, oh, God, come on, you didn't think it was aliens, did you? That's something I definitely don't want when I'm actually asking anybody about their personal experiences. So I really have to make sure in methodological symmetry and populism as well, that I'm not letting those inherent biases that I already have into my research. And I'm also not trying to let those culturally as well. Because there are a lot of times when you hear something and you immediately be like, oh my gosh, that can't be true. However, for some people and for different cultures, those things are true, right? So the experience of the supernatural in everyday life is a thing for a lot of people. But if you go in assuming it's not, or if you go in assuming that it's something special that happens, that can also be a type of inherent bias. So you really have to be careful when you're asking these questions, and you're trying to ask those questions as balanced as possible. So sometimes it seems kind of silly to say, like, in methodological symmetry, you would not only say, why do you believe something is true, but why do you believe it's not true? It seems sometimes silly as a is a little exercise like that, but that's essentially what you're trying to do. You're essentially trying to make sure that whatever you talk about with that person, whatever questions you ask aren't leading, but also that you're listening to them and you're not letting your own inherent bias come in and kind of color what your interview is what's happening in your interview or what that person's trying to tell you. Hopefully that makes it a little bit simpler for everyone out there.